Everyone stepping into the modern reality television machine enters a psychological endurance test. They are volunteering to have their every microexpression, private argument, and insecurity quantified, packaged, and measured as a corporate performance metric. Welcome to Documentaries by Fahid. Today, we are examining the hidden industrial supply chain of reality dating television and how it weaponizes human behavior to fuel an engagement empire. For its 7th season, Netflix's Love is Blind set up shop in Washington, D.C. The marketing promised a more mature, intellectual iteration of the social experiment, moving away from standard influencer archetypes. The cast was filled with highly credentialed individuals operating in the city's rigorous professional sectors: clean energy policy consultants, brilliant quantum physicists, and former naval surface warfare officers. People in these fields spend years building what you might call a reputation shield. It is a carefully cultivated armor of professionalism and polish required to navigate high-level corporate and government spaces. They are used to strictly controlling how they are perceived by their peers. Bringing that thick layer of armor into a heavily surveilled television experiment creates a false sense of security. When the production eventually strips away their ability to dictate their own narrative, the psychological whiplash is severe. The pressure breaking these contestants down is a deliberate feature of the production, actively enforced by the legal architecture operating behind the scenes. The National Labor Relations Board recently filed a complaint targeting the producers of Love is Blind, alleging that cast members are unlawfully classified as independent contractors rather than employees, which strips them of basic labor protections and the right to unionize. This flowchart illustrates how early season contracts were allegedly structured to retain absolute control over the cast. If a participant attempted to quit the show early without express producer approval, they faced a strictly enforced $50,000 liquidated damages penalty. If a participant tried to speak out about hazardous on-set conditions after the fact, a non-disclosure agreement threatened them with a penalty of $1 million per breach. The sheer weight of these contracts has led multiple former contestants to file lawsuits against the production companies, alleging severe sleep and food deprivation, emotional distress, and even false imprisonment. When you realize these financial threats exist, agonizing scenes of mismatched couples marching all the way to the altar take on a completely different context. They aren't prolonging an organic romantic failure, they are walking down the aisle to avoid a $50,000 exit fee. The true strain begins the moment they leave the isolated pods. Returning to the real world, they realize their private lives are now public property. Take Ramses and Marissa. Both presented themselves as composed, deeply empathetic professionals. But as the wedding date approached, Ramses began to retreat. He was suddenly confronted with the reality that his deeply personal hesitations about marriage would be broadcast globally, completely outside of his editorial control. In response, the dialogue between the couples begins to shift. The raw emotional honesty seen in the pods is replaced by highly rehearsed therapy speak. Cast members start carefully curating their vocabulary on camera to protect their professional standing. In private, they are arguing over heavy, deeply ingrained lifestyle differences, disagreements over contraception, arguments about finances, and family integration. But when the red light is on, those messy realities are smoothed over into vague discussions about matching energies and alignment. The production apparatus doesn't need to force the drama. It simply weaponizes their high-status anxiety. By capturing their desperate attempts to avoid public humiliation, the network effortlessly generates compelling television. Once the season airs, the cast must navigate a completely different landscape: the validation economy. Post-show survival requires rigorous damage control. This timeline tracks social media activity. Right before filming, Tyler scrubbed his digital footprint, deleting a Facebook profile featuring 3 children, presenting a clean slate. As episodes aired, external sources flooded social media with the hidden details, creating massive public blowback. Despite discovering her husband lied to her through a Google Meet log found on his laptop, Ashley chose to stand by him at the reunion. In the modern influencer landscape, publicly performing a unified front protects your marketability. For a newly minted reality star, an authentic, messy breakup severely limits your brand deals. Decoding the financial value of your mutual trauma and maintaining a synchronized, monetized digital alliance is simply the more lucrative business decision. This bar chart compares the immense scale of the franchise's success to the actual compensation of its cast. On one side, the show generates billions of streaming minutes for the network. On the other is the participants' flat stipend of roughly $1,000 per week. When you factor in a shooting schedule that former cast members claim ran up to 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, that stipend breaks down to an hourly wage sitting far below the legal minimum wage in Los Angeles County. That financial discrepancy is compounded by the severe reputational damage contestants endure long after the cameras stop rolling. Leo Brody, who received a villain edit this season, watched his family's art gallery get crippled by targeted harassment and thousands of weaponized one-star Google reviews from angry viewers. The platforms hosting these shows do not view this targeted harassment as a flaw. Their algorithms are specifically designed to amplify moral outrage. The real-world devastation of a cast member's business is actively utilized to keep viewers clicking, commenting, and engaging. The entire global streaming apparatus operates as an asymmetric extraction machine. It does not treat human vulnerability as a delicate art form. It treats it as a high-density, low-cost industrial fuel. Stepping into the pods is a permanent transaction. Once those heavy, soundproof doors slide shut, there is no unwinding the deal. Televised love being fake is a common accusation, but the more unsettling reality is simpler. The moment you allow a camera to validate your intimacy, you transfer the ownership of your relationship directly to the network. These ambitious professionals tried to build ironclad lives under an unblinking spotlight, but they ultimately discovered the harsh reality of the validation economy. No matter how smart you are, the corporate house always wins. Thank you for watching. To see more premium, analytical investigations into the unseen forces shaping modern culture, subscribe to Documentaries by Fahid.